I think that businesses generally become complacent and assume that their vendors are doing what their vendors say they're doing. Identity security, there's all these standards, and they say, "Hey, I'm using this standard. I must be great, right? Everything must be fine." Well, none of those standards, most of those standards anyway, aren't foolproof, and there's still execution that needs to happen. You should really be paying attention to your environments too. And I think a lot of people overlook that. And they assume that the things they have in place are fully catching everything they think it's going to catch.
I would say the biggest one is a misconception that a sufficiently complicated or sophisticated login will prevent all bad actors. Right? There's a movement today that if I get rid of the password and move to pass keys, that will effectively prevent any bad logins or bad guys from ever kind of getting in. And we just have been in this industry too long, right? To believe that the bad guys will not find out a way. Right. So I would say that the biggest risk is too much dependence or reliance on our current prevention layers, right? And not enough ongoing threat detection and threat response in real time as a regular state of business when looking at identity. So it's dramatically making it easy for attackers to attack at scale in very sophisticated ways, right?
Right.
AI has just put sophisticated attack vectors and TTPs in everybody's hands now, in everybody's hands.
Right.
I do think, though, that one area where defenders and security professionals, and we have certainly seen this true at Verosint, you know, our use of AI has turned a traditionally measured in hundreds of days or months or weeks time to discover and time to remediate, right, in a security event, turn that into seconds or minutes. Defenders now have the advantage of using AI to dramatically reduce the amount of time that an attacker has to do bad things. The dwell time is what it's called. And that's a game changer. And that's a long-standing game changer.
Certainly, AI has turned, especially large language models, has turned mediocre bad guys into good bad guys or faster bad guys, right? So, all sorts. I can write code now that I couldn't write before, for example, because the AI will just write it for me, and I can launch attacks faster because of it. On the other side of that, on our side of that, the Veracent side of that, we can find behaviors that we couldn't necessarily find before using AI, is what we're using it for in a lot of cases. We can also describe problems back to people that they couldn't necessarily easily understand before.
Right? Identity is always the who, right? Identity is always the actor using a system to access a resource to perform some action, right? So security professionals, you can't just look at the action, right? You will never have the right context or the best context unless you're really also starting with the identity. The who is doing things, right, matters. You don't really understand what's happening without that who.
Move the identity itself, just as make it as important as your endpoints. Make it just as important as your firewalls. Make it just as important as anything else you've got in place. Because frankly, they log in, they don't break in,
Right.
right?
Everybody needs to have a system in place where they are capturing the identity event stream and analyzing it to look for the indicators of risk, attack, or compromise. Put a system like Verosint in place that reads the identity event stream in real time, that gives you the ability to analyze everything and then very quickly help you research and decide, hey, was this just a series of events? Or do these events indicate an incident, specifically an incident that's indicating risk, attack, or compromise?
Don't underestimate visibility. I think that one thing that's happened in the identity space over time is that since it's often viewed as plumbing, that you shovel your logs, you shovel all these things into SIM platforms, or you just stream them off on a syslog or whatever you're doing with your logs, right? That's where all the good stuff is. That's where you can investigate. That's where you can find out how users operate and exist, right? So don't ignore visibility.
Identity is a new edge. Identity is a new perimeter. You know, security professionals, I would ask you to start thinking about or considering identity as the ultimate endpoint, right? Identity is the object that you want your security focus, tool set, and energy to be spent on, right? Not exclusively, right? We still need to make, continued investment, continued increased investment in traditional edge protection, EDR, XDR, and things like that. But identity really is the key.